I see. Uh-huh. Well, as I was saying, it's so good to be here and see so many old faces and so many new faces. And it's such a pleasure to be amongst you. Now, normally I do not prepare a talk. What we do is ask the audience to ask any question they like, even how to bake a cake.
Grace byder alle sammen velkommen og sagde, det var rart at se nogle gamle ansigter, og også en hel del nye. Han sagde, at han aldrig forbereder sine taler. I bliver dannet ud for de spørgsmål, I stiller. Og I kan stille alle spørgsmål, også hvordan han bager en kage.
Yet, shall we meditate for a moment? Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Open your eyes slowly. Namaste. Now, most of the new meditators might not know I greet this way. It actually means that with thought, word, and deed, I salute the divinity in you. Because, sorry, move this way so I can watch you.
Det betyder med tanke, i tale og i handling.
Yes, because each and every one are potentially divine.
Fordi hver eneste er levende og guddommelig.
Yes, and the purpose of our organization is to bring that divinity out of you, draw it from the kingdom of heaven within.
Og formålet med vores bevægelse er at trække på det guddommelige, at åbne for himmeriges rige inde i os.
So therefore, when it is drawn out of you, then it will penetrate your daily active life.
Når man begynder at trække på det guddommelige indefra, begynder det at trænge igennem på vores daglige liv.
And with regular practice, you'd find life becoming more and more joyous and happier.
Og med mere og mere øvelse bliver vores liv mere og mere glædesfyldt og mere lykkelige.
And you have all the energies of the universe within you. It is just a matter of using a systematic process to tap the energy.
Det er kun et spørgsmål om på en systematisk måde at tappe.
So everything is in you. I'll tell you a little story. There was a man who used to go to a restaurant every day.
Så alt er i jer. Jeg vil fortælle en lille historie. Der var en mand, som plejede at gå til en restaurant hver eneste dag.
And he used to buy a tin of Coca-Cola.
Med Coca-Cola.
So every morning he goes and orders a tin of Coca-Cola, and then he takes out a can opener from his pocket and opens the tin.
Og hver morgen, så når han købte den her dåse med Coca-Cola, så tog han op af sin lomme en dåseåbner og åbnede dåsen med.
So the shopkeeper was watching this performance every day.
Den her forestilling hver eneste dag.
And his curiosity was growing more and more. So one day he approached this gentleman and says, "Excuse me, sir."
Så en dag så gik han hen til den her herre og sagde til ham, undskyld.
So this man, the shopkeeper said that on the tin there's a pull tab which you pull, then the tin opens.
Så manden sagde, undskyld mig, men altså på den her dåse, der er sådan en lille rund hage, som man kan trække i for at få dåsen åbnet.
So this man, the man that drinks Coca-Cola, replies, he says that pull tab is only for people that haven't got a can opener.
Ja, den der tab, den bliver jo kun brugt af folk, der ikke har dåseåbner.
So through our practices, we are opening the can with the pull tab of the mind.
Så gennem vores teknikker bruger vi altså det her.
Now the mind can be the greatest obstacle to self-realization.
Den her hang, det er vores sind, når vi benytter vores øvelser. Men sindet kan samtidig være den største forhindring.
And it could be used as the greatest help towards a spiritual progress. Therefore, I said in the beginning that everyone is potentially divine.
Det var derfor, jeg i starten sagde, at vi er alle sammen i essens.
And being divine, there's no necessity for suffering.
Der er ikke nogen nødvendighed i, at vi skal lide.
And as you progress on the spiritual path and become more and more happier,
Som du går frem ad den åndelige vej, lykkelig og lykkelig.
you would find suffering just to be an illusion. And that illusion is created by wrong thinking,
Det er forkert.
by having the wrong perspectives.
Ved at have de forkerte aspekter.
Verkeerde, wrong. In Afrikaans language is the same word, verkeerde. There's a lot of words that are very similar in Afrikaans and Dansk, Danish.
Afrikansk og dansk.
Yeah, because they are all from the Germanic origin. Good. And with these few introductory words, I said them so you can have an idea how the course will flow.
Det her var et ord til introduktion, så I kan få en idé om, hvordan kursen vil flyde.
We're going to have many practices on this course, like the Golden Thread Initiation.
Så
And then we're going to practice Yoga Nidra. And then the communion practice. And quite a few other things, I think. Good. Now, let me have one of your profound philosophical questions.
Lad mig få et virkelig dybt spørgsmål.
Well, I have a question.
Mhm.
It's about the God consciousness and unity consciousness and devotion.
Mhm.
I formulated something like this. How will the transformation from God consciousness to unity consciousness come about? And is not devotion to God just the most sublime form of attachment and the final illusion to overcome?
Beautiful.
There's another aspect to it. What about the ecstatic madness and joy that can overtake one when thinking of God, Krishna or you or some other incarnation? Please throw some light on its nature. And well, personally, I can become completely mad when thinking of Krishna and just jump around and cry and laugh and
Divine madness.
yeah.
Jan, would you please translate that into Danish?
Oh yeah, yeah. Det jeg sagde var hvordan kommer forandring fra Guds bevidsthed til enhedsbevidsthed i stand, og er ikke hengivenhed til Gud bare den mest ophøjede form for tilknytning og den endelige illusion, der skal overstås? Og hvad med den fuldstændig ekstatiske sindssyge eller vanvid eller ekscentriske lyksalighed, som man kan blive grebet af, når man tænker på Gud eller Krishna eller en eller anden inkarnation? Og så bad jeg Gururaj om at kaste lys over det.
Very good. That's chapter 1. Now chapter 2. Good. Now, to develop God consciousness, one has to have the sense of duality.
For at kunne udvikle Guds bevidsthed, bliver man nødt til at have følelsen af dualitet.
Now, that would imply the I and thou principle.
Princippet om du og jeg.
And you find yourself separate from God.
Du finder dig selv adskilt fra Gud.
Now, when a person develops God consciousness, at the same time you develop a universal consciousness because God is universal.
På samme tid som du udvikler Guds bevidsthed, udvikler du også bevidstheden om det universelle, for Gud er universelt.
So that is one of the steps on the path. And in God consciousness, you develop bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion.
Så den guddommelige bevidsthed, mens du er på vej mod den, udvikler du også bevidstheden om bhakti yoga, som er hengivenheden til Gud.
Now, there are many paths that lead to God. It's like rivers coming from different directions and ultimately becoming one in the same ocean.
Det er ligesom mange floder, som fører mod det samme hav.
Yesterday, one of your magazines, a reporter came down to do an interview with me.
I går kom der en reporter til vores hus og lavede et interview med mig.
Good. And this is what I explained him, that we normally start a person off on the path for which he has the temperament.
At vi normalt begynder folk på den vej, der svarer til vedkommendes temperament.
Now, ancient psychologists have discovered that basically there are only 4 temperaments.
Tidligere tiders psykologer har opdaget, at der i basis faktisk kun eksisterer 4 temperamenter.
The person that has an inquiring mind, an analytical mind, will naturally start off with Gnan Yoga, the yoga of knowledge.
Den person, som har et analytisk sind, kan starte på det, man kalder Gnanvejen, som også betyder visdommens vej.
The person who is devotional by nature, he will start off with Bhakti Yoga.
Tur er hengiven, at vi starter med Bhakti Yoga.
And a person that believes more in action, do good, be good, we start them off with Karma Yoga.
Og de mennesker, som har mere tendens til handling og mere godt, vær god, dem starter med Karma Yoga.
And then, of course, we have Raja Yoga, which is a combination of all these paths.
Og så er der selvfølgelig Raja Yoga, som er den kongelige yoga, som er en kombination af dem alle.
Yes, and that is what we teach mostly. Mm. Because all these different paths, as I said before, becomes one as you progress.
For som jeg sagde før med følgende, så bliver alle disse veje integreret i en vej.
So you'd find, if you study theology,
Så hvis du studerer filosofi, vil du finde,
that the theologies, always have bhakti yoga. They have the basic principle of I and thou. Now, many people have different concepts of God.
mennesker har forskellige former for
In the Hindu religion, they picture God with 4 arms or 6 arms.
så Gud, som har 4 hoveder og 4 arme.
Among the Christian people, many of them believe that there's an old man sitting up there in the sky somewhere.
I kristne tror man, at der sidder en gammel
With hundreds of bookkeepers sitting around him. And would sit down and take notes. Oh, Jean did this today. Oh, Jan did this today. And then the old man goes through the books and makes judgments.
Og så går den gamle mand ind gennem bøgerne, og så bedømmer han det.
Yeah, they even believe in the pearly gates. We got to go through this gate where Saint Peter, is it? Is sitting.
De tror endda på Himmeriges porte, det man kalder perleportene, hvor Sankt Peter sidder og venter.
So this one man died, and he went to the pearly gates. St. Paul, they use computers nowadays.
Som I sikkert ved, så har I computer.
So he sat down, pressing this man's name,
Så sad der og talte hans navn ind.
and his name wasn't there.
Hans navn.
So he says, "Sorry, sir, you can't come in. Your name is not on the computer."
Jeg beklager her, sagde han, men de kan ikke komme ind, fordi deres navn findes ikke.
Perhaps you might have to go to the other side. You know, the hot side. Yes. So this man said, "I've lived such a good life.
Så den manden sagde, det kan jeg ikke forstå, for jeg har levet sådan et godt liv.
So I'm sure I should be here." So then St. Paul went to the big computer. And he presses the man's name. And then the name came up. So he comes back to this man. He says, "Yes, your name is on the computer, but you are not due here for another 3 years."
Ja, dit navn findes faktisk på først har der kommet om 3 år.
So you'll have to go back down to earth and come back after 3 years. But by the way, who was your doctor? Yes. So, to get back to the original question, you develop a certain belief.
For at vende tilbage til det oprindelige spørgsmål. Du udvikler en bestemt tro.
In God consciousness. But that belief comes from your personal conception.
Men den tro kommer fra jeres personlige
It is your mind that conjures up a god with 6 arms or an old man sitting on a golden throne.
Det er sind, som skaber et billede af en mand med 4 hoveder, 4 arme, eller en gammel mand, der sidder på en trone.
So, your mind, the conscious mind, is very small. It's only a fraction
Jeres bevidste sind er i virkeligheden meget lille. Det er kun en del
of this vast universal mind that everyone possesses.
bevidsthed, som alle ejer.
Now, how can the finite mind ever comprehend that which is infinite?
Hvordan kan et begrænset sind nogensinde omfatte noget, som er ubegrænset?
By the way, it's the first time she is translating, so if there's any word she misses, all of you participate. Be nice, be good. Do you tell them that?
Hvis jeg mister noget undervejs, så vil jeg også godt have en hjælp mig lidt.
She's doing a good job.
Du gør et godt job.
I will understand you, not today, tomorrow, mañana.
I øjeblikket er det dansk, så det går faktisk meget godt.
So, God is a conceptual God made by man.
Så Gud er et begreb, som er skabt af mennesket.
Good. But if God cannot be found even in duality, in the I and thou, even if God cannot be found in duality, how can he be found?
Så hvis Gud ikke kan findes eller opdages i dualitet, hvor man har bevidstheden om mig og dig, hvordan skulle han så kunne findes?
You find God inside you. You feel him. You experience it.
Du finder Gud i dig selv, oplever ham i dig selv.
And that is the area not of the mind, but of the heart. Yes. And when you find that feeling, that realization within your heart, you know he and you are one, like Christ has said, I and my Father are one.
At I ikke længere er adskilte fra hinanden, men at I er et, som Jesus sagde, jeg og min fader er et.
And it's not only Jesus that have found I and the Father are one.
Jesus, som har sagt, at jeg og min fader er et.
By Father, we regard it as the higher principle within us.
Når vi taler om faderen, så mener vi det højeste i os selv.
And the little I, the me, the little I is you.
Og det lille jeg, som er dig, som du er i øjeblikket.
So on the path you proceed from the little I to the higher, bigger I that is in with you.
Og langs med vejen, så skrider du hen imod, at du ikke længere bare er det lille jeg, men at du bliver det store jeg i dig selv.
And when you find that, you are in unity consciousness.
Og når du har fundet det, så er du i et område af enhedsbevidsthed.
And now the experience of unity consciousness is this,
Oplevelsen af enhedsbevidsthed er dette.
that you feel yourself to be divine, blissful, joyous, because that is your true nature.
Så vil du finde, at du begynder at blive fuldstændig lyksalig og fuld af kærlighed, fordi din sande natur i virkeligheden er det.
And that is what the scriptures say, man know thyself.
Som skrifterne hentyder til, når de siger, menneske kend dig selv.
And when you really know yourself and have become one with yourself,
Dig selv og er blevet et med dig selv,
then you will find that divinity in everyone.
der vil du se den guddommelighed i alle.
In every little worm crawling on the floor, you'll find divinity.
Hver eneste lille orm, der kravler.
Yes, you will find divinity in this mic. You will find divinity in this chair. In this table, you will find divinity.
såvel i stol.
You think this table is standing still.
Hvor det står stille.
It's in motion.
Bevægelsen.
There are millions and billions of molecules revolving around in there all the time. When you not only seeing the life in the table, you could even feel the life in the table. That is unity consciousness, where you feel at one mint, you feel at one with everything.
Hvor du føler enhed af.
So now you have progressed from the conceptual God of the mind that you have created
Så du er nu fremskredet til fra at gå fra en Gud, som du har som begreb,
to become the living God. And that's what we want. We want living gods walking this earth. Not some of those guys flying in the air.
rundt i luften.
Because that is abstract.
For det er abstrakt.
Now the reason why you need a personal God
Grunden til, at du har brug for en personlig Gud,
is that so you can focus your mind.
er for, at du kan fokusere dit sind.
Yeah. And even if you do not believe in a personal God, you have the practice of tratik,
Og selvom du måske ikke skulle tro på en personlig Gud, så har du stadigvæk trækbevægelsen,
which without concentrating develops concentration by a simple method of focusing the mind.
som selvom du ikke koncentrerer dig i øvelsen, alligevel opnår du koncentration, sådan at sindet bliver fokuseret.
You see. And it is only the concentrated mind that will help you from fragmentation to integration.
Og det er kun denne form for koncentration af sindet, som kan få dig fra delthed, fra noget, der er delt, til enhed.
Yes. Now by fragmentation we mean that one thought is pulling that way and the body is pulling this way and another thought is pulling that way.
Og vi taler om fragmenter, stykker, så mener vi alle tankerne, som bliver også i forskellige retninger af kroppen.
So 99.999% of the people live fragmented lives, in other words, in bits and pieces.
Så 99,9% af alle mennesker lever et delt liv. Et fragmenteret.
But the integrated person functions as a totality.
Fungerer.
And when you function as a totality, every action you perform will be dynamic. It will have power. Because it is supported from that vast reservoir of energy that is within you.
Fordi det er understøttet af det enorme reservoir af energi, som er i dig.
And to repeat again, life becomes smoother.
Gentage det igen, så
You can ask those that have been close to me all over the world that I just need to think about a thing and it happens.
tæt på mig over hele verden. Så jeg behøver bare tænke på en ting, og så sker det.
Thousands of people around the world has experienced it.
Der er tusindvis af mennesker over hele verden, som har oplevet det.
I'll give you the example of one American lady. She's in charge of America, Vidya.
Eksempel.
She was coming to the English course, but couldn't get tickets, all booked out.
Hun ville gerne på det engelske kursus, men alle billetter til London var udsolgt.
So she phones me to South Africa. She says, Guruji, I tried everything and I can't get a ticket to come to the London course. The only time I can get a ticket is when the course is nearly halfway finished.
Jeg har prøvet simpelthen alt, og jeg kan ikke få en billet. Det eneste tidspunkt, jeg har fået en billet på, er, når kurset faktisk er ved at være overstået.
So I told her, I meditated, as I will meditate for you, and tomorrow morning you go to the travel agent, you will get a ticket.
Så efter jeg havde talt med hende, så satte jeg mig og mediterede. Men lige inden han lagde røret på, så sagde han så vidt at hun skulle gå ned til rejsebureauet og tjekke med dem igen næste morgen.
Yeah. So the next morning she went, and she got a ticket.
Så næste morgen tog hun derned og lånte en billet.
So, as I said before, the mind is a very powerful instrument.
Som jeg sagde før, så er sindet et meget kraftfuldt instrument.
If it is integrated. Now, coming back to your question, if people ask me, do you believe in God?
For at vende tilbage til det spørgsmål. Hvis folk spørger mig, tror du på Gud?
I say no.
Vil jeg sige nej.
I don't believe in God, I know God.
Jeg tror ikke.
Because I've made him, or he has made me, a part of himself. In other words, you have merged into that divine energy. And that is unity consciousness. Now, the human mind is as vast as the universe. And you have a memory box in your subconscious mind that will that knows everything that happened since you were a primal atom. Now, can you imagine that grace? Do you know your brain weighs only 2.5 to 3 pounds? Yet you have all the knowledge in there since the universe began. It is just to tap into that energy. And everything that I will speak to you about on this course will not be things of book knowledge, but of things which I have experienced myself. Therefore, I never prepare a talk. You ask any question you like. Yeah, and in the 1 minute of meditation, I'm in touch with the superconscious level of the mind that knows everything. So, any question you ask, I tap the superconscious level of the mind, and your answers are there. Now, who would not like to, in our audience here, who would not like to develop that ability? So, meditate, meditate, meditate. Yes. So, the second part of your question was, we talked of God consciousness and unity consciousness.
State of ecstasy that one could get into.
Yes, well, I think that is answered already, where when you develop that or unfold that unity consciousness, you are automatically in the state of joy.
Jeg tror allerede, jeg har besvaret det sidste spørgsmål omkring lyksalighed. Fordi når du udvikler enhedsbevidsthed, så er du automatisk i det område af fuldstændig glæde eller lykke.
And your awareness is vast, then you could see nothing wrong in the world. Everything would just seem right to you. Because you will know the meaning of the law of polarity. Everything has its opposites. Like day would have night, white would be black, rain there will be sun. But you enjoy everything. Like when I came here to Denmark, and in England it was also below zero, quite a few people asked me, don't you feel cold?
Under frysepunktet, mange spurgte mig, har du det ikke koldt?
So I said, what's wrong with that? It's all right.
Det er i orden.
Just say, because you appreciate it. You're unified with the snow outside there. And when the sun shines, you're unified with the heat of the sun. You melt away into that beauty. And everything is so beautiful. All the mess in the mind is cleared up. And you develop a greater, this is a subject on its own, but to mention it, you develop a greater synaptic control between the left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere.
Og du finder en større
And the left hemisphere of the brain is the analytical side that calculates, while the right hemisphere of the brain is the intuitional side.
Den højre side af hjernen er den intuitive del.
And it has a direct connection with the heart. So, through our spiritual practices, there's great synaptic control between both sides of the brain. And most people has had some glimpse of this experience. Most of you must have experienced, you think of someone, Aunt Grace is, you're thinking of Aunt Grace.
Sikkert oplevet, at I pludselig har siddet og tænkt på for eksempel Tante Nåde.
And you don't know when you will see her. Yeah. But here you hear a knock on the door and Aunt Grace has come.
Pludselig hører I det banker på døren, og I kommer til.
Yeah. Most people have had that experience. That means for a brief moment, there was a balance there. Between the left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain. But through spiritual practices, it can become permanent.
Hvor åndelige øvelser kan det blive en permanent oplevelse.
So, when that occurs in the brain, you experience that joy.
Så du begynder at føle den glæde.
You can ask them that were close to me many times. I burst out singing, joyful.
Bare spørg dem, der er sammen med mig nogle gange.
You've seen this in these past 2 days. Start singing, start dancing. You're in ecstasy. And that ecstasy rises even beyond your feelings and emotions.
Og den ekstase tager dig endda ud over følelser.
Because it comes from beyond the mind.
Fordi det kommer fra noget, som ligger ud over sindet.
And only translated from that beyond to your conscious level. Do you know that this little brain that weighs 3 pounds
Ved I, at den lille hjerne, som vejer 2,5 til 3
contains 12 billion cells? And we are only using 1 millionth part of the 12 billion cells.
En del af det.
1 millionth, a fraction of the 12 billion cells. So through spiritual practices, more and more cells are opened up.
For større og større brug til 12 millioner.
Even Einstein only used 1/8% of his brain. And he was supposed to be a genius. By the way, there are only 2 kinds of people I know. Geniuses and geniasses. But I think most of them is understood, yes. Yes. So, that is the basis of your joy and ecstasy. For example, I told you of that I'll just start singing, compose poetry on the spur of the moment.
Jeg fortalte jer før, nogle gange så bryder jeg bare ud sang.
That is divine madness, Krishna madness, Christ madness, Buddha madness. Call it what you want to. Yes. Because they're all the same.
Fordi de virkeligheden er alle sammen de samme.
There is only one consciousness, which from time to time, as it is said in the Gita,
Som det står i Gitaen.
where when evil rises, that consciousness takes physical shape
Så vil den bevidsthed
in the form of Krishna or Buddha or Christ to teach and to lessen the evil in the world, to make less the evil in the world.
i verden.
See? So therefore, if you are a bhakti yogi or worshipful by nature, there is nothing wrong in having a focal point.
Så hvis du er bhakti-yogi, hengivende ved natur, så er der overhovedet ikke noget galt i at have et fokuseringspunkt.
Even your own husband or wife can be your focal point. If the husband wife loves the wife intensely,
Elsker sin kone dybt meget.
then through the concrete you approach the abstract.
Der vil du kunne gennem det konkrete kunne nå det abstrakte.
Yes. So when you reach a certain stage, you are not only aware of the whole universe around you, but also you are welling up with love.
Du når et sted, hvor du ikke alene bliver bevidst om hele universet omkring dig, men der vil flyde en spontan kærlighed fra dig hele tiden.
And you feel that inner peace.
Du begynder at føle den indre fred.
You become stable. Like that poet, Rudyard Kipling, English poet, he wrote the poem If.
Digter Kipling, som skrev digtet Hvis, som også står i teksten.
And in that poem, I can't remember the exact words,
Præcise ord, men i det her digt,
and some of the words are these, that the whole world can go crazy around you,
at hele verden omkring dig kan blive sindssyg.
but you are standing still.
Verden kan bevæge sig omkring, men de står stille.
Yes. Now, that is the secret of life.
Det er hemmeligheden.
To find the peace, as the Bible will say again, to find the peace that passeth all understanding.
For at citere Bibelen igen, så er det den fred, som
Understanding is from the mind.
forståelse kommer fra sind.
Peace is from the heart. So, to find the peace that passeth all understanding.
Så man finder der fred, som går ud over alt forstand.
You become one with the consciousness. And becoming one with the consciousness, you become that consciousness.
Og at blive et med den bevidsthed, bliver du den bevidsthed.
Good. Yeah. I think it's time for a few laughs. And it's to be joyous and express the joy. In America, we have the motto, the 3 L's. Life, love, and laughter.
Kærlighed, liv og latter.
Later, laughter. You know, there was a doctor, and this doctor was very busy in his practice, and he was getting old.
Læge, som er meget travlt i sin praksis, men han er virkelig gammel.
So he took a younger doctor as a partner. So now the older doctor had to take the younger doctor around.
Så den ældre læge tog den yngre læge med sig rundt.
They had to make some calls, medical calls.
Hjemmebesøg.
So
Vi ved så, at alle læger de har sådan nogle lidt rutineprægede opgaver, hvor de tager blodtryk og puls og termometer i munden på jer.